the human-centered approach. If Sandeep and Natalie can come up to the stage, that would be awesome. Really appreciate your being here today. Thank you very much. You know, I love blending, have a seat please, world-class companies like Adobe and Microsoft and the thought leadership based on kind of a global research platform. And so we're fortunate and lucky to have both of them here talking about this notion of winning in the digital age, the human-centered approach. I mean, we'd all agree that it is pretty competitive out there. Digital platforms, the organization that has that digital platform that is sticky and engaging and easy to use wins. Natalie, what is the human-centered approach? What's your take on this really lofty vision, goal, aspiration, and is it doable?
Yes, that's a perfect question. And again, like it's probably to some extent interesting to speak about human-centric approach in front of people who've been for the last decade doing things such as digitization and automation and creating all those processes to remove, to some extent, a human from this process. But I think this is a time for us to return back to human and human touch when it's important. And again, like it's not a surprise that we as humans, we make connections and we create emotional connection. And this is how, again, like brands communicate and interact with people. And when we talk about culture, this culture needs to be translated and people translate that culture. Again, we're not just saying like, you know, remove all the technologies, but we are saying that creating this new platform with a human back in the center is a new North Star.
So Natalie, before you go on, a little bit about your role as the head of the financial services space. That's a big undertaking. What an amazing role.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm head of financial services for Adobe Document Cloud. So anything you think you can do with documents, create document, extract information from documents, send document, that would be me. But before I joined Adobe, I spent 15 years working in financial services. My last position was head of strategy and transformation. So I've been on the other side of the table, and I also work in McKinsey as a strategic consultant, again, like helping financial services to do digital transformations.
Great stuff. Pradeep, over to you.
So I have a similar background. I actually joined Microsoft around 2 years ago. And when Natalie and I were talking, you know, we are part of what many of the large platform companies are doing. The recognition that we need to understand what is it that are the business outcomes our customers are driving towards is critical to making sure that we can make them successful. And in order to do that, people like me have joined Microsoft, right? I'm part of a team which has deep industry expertise. So I spent all my career in financial services, started in a bank, and then after that, I was a consultant for a long time. And my job actually for a long time was to be the bridge between business and technology. And I bring that skill to Microsoft, and what I do is I engage our customers, understand what is top of mind for them, and then figure out how we can bring the best of our ecosystem. Microsoft and our ecosystem and partners like Adobe are really critical. And so we make sure that we are invested jointly in their success.
So Sandeep, apologies. What was it about the role at Microsoft that caught your eye, and what do you like about it? What do you love about your day-to-day work with clients?
I get paid to listen, and I get paid to work with really smart people who are committed to our purpose. The thing about Microsoft that has been amazing is that we were a fairly successful company that went through a radical transformation. So many of the things that our customers are facing and that they're tackling with, we dealt with it, right? We were not a cloud-first company 8 years back. And so we have learned a lot through this change. And if you look at it, it's having a shared purpose, having a strong culture, and making sure, many of the principles that you talked about, Hunter, in the morning, they have been very critical for us to be successful. And that is what, I love about my job. And then it's also cool to work for a platform company that is helping our customers be successful. And in financial services, I can tell you this, without the cloud, the last 2 years, what we have gone through, we would not have been resilient. We wouldn't have come out on top like we did.
So literally in the last 8 years, the company's dramatically changed under new leadership. Satyam's amazing, right? He is all about inspiring, trusting relationships. True?
Absolutely. And remember, Satya has been with Microsoft all his career, right? For most of his career, he has been with Microsoft. So it's not an outsider coming in. You don't need to bring in outside talent, right? It's there. Most organizations have it. It's there in our DNA. It's building the culture, right? And having that vision to make sure that you realize that potential.
Great stuff. And back over to you, Natalie. When you think of ecosystems, platforms, and a frictionless experience, and an ease of use, that wins. That's the winning formula. It's great, easy to say, not so easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, like one of the change of overall understanding in industry, again, like we've been talking about digital transformation for a while. Now it's more changing toward the creating a platform to easy deploy whatever, again, like whatever they need, the business need, the processes may need, whatever the back office may need, to create that platform and make sure like have something to implement something much easier. And this cannot be done in vacuum. It cannot be done by, again, just like one provider, one solution. It has to be a connected platform with ecosystem attached to it, with an ecosystem like working with right partners like Microsoft and others. So that's something, again, that's something how we are working with our clients and how we helping our clients to build the systems to meet their like needs internally and externally.
Great stuff. Sandeep, do you want to jump on that as well?
Yeah, so let's take an example, something that most of us have likely experienced. You go to maybe the mobile app or the web app for the financial services firm that you're using, right? And you go there and you wanted to check something, and or you wanted to conduct a transaction. Let's say that you needed some more information, so you got so you had to move to a chatbot. So you authenticated yourself first, right? When you logged on, you have to authenticate yourself again when you go to the chatbot. And let's say it was a really complicated transaction and you had to actually talk to someone. So you had to go, make a call to the call center. You have to authenticate yourself again. I think, I would assume most of us have had experiences very similar to this. The question is, you know why they're doing it, right? They're doing it so that, so that it's secure, your information is secure. Do you think as a consumer that increases trust in the financial services, in your financial institution? Or an alternate scenario in which, you use technology that's widely available now, and you can authenticate once, but using digital ID, biometric identification, you don't have to keep on identifying yourself multiple times, right? Your experience becomes more seamless. You save time. And time is money for both me and also for the consumer who just went through that experience. Mm-hmm. That, I'd say, actually makes you more trustworthy of your financial services institution. Yeah. Right? So putting the human back, and we're talking about putting the human back in experiences, I would argue is essential, not just for efficiency perspective. It's actually important for you when you're talking at how you survive and thrive in this digital age.
Yeah. Are there consumer scenarios that we can look at as they're so seamless and frictionless that those kind of experiences eventually will come to the enterprise? Natalie?
That's an interesting question. I think, again, like I'm still reflecting on what you said, and like one of the examples which I brought a couple, I run on data, so I brought a couple of data points here. Is like, for example, insurance claims experience. Very often, again, when something is very simple, you can go self-service, submit these things. When the human touch becoming important, when you have when you're facing a complicated story, with a lot of elements to submit, or where it's emotional situation. And in this case, you want to talk to a person. And I have some stats from LexisNexis here, is degree of comfort with automated claims management. People are not happy with automated claims management for most of the time. But when you introduce a person in this process, ability to talk to a person, you don't have to talk to a person, but ability to talk to a person, the comfort level increases 20% instantly. So this is a huge element, and again, like that's what we are talking about, how to introduce a right, like at the right point of time, in the right channel, a human back to help make that connection and make sure that the customers will be happy.
Great stuff.
Yeah, if I may just add another element to it. This digital world we live in, we're not going back from it, right? I mean, if you look at just the percentage of interactions that's digital versus through voice or physical, it's 90+% now, and it's not changing back. So we are not saying you have to roll that back, but what we are saying, and Natalie, that point is really, really valid, how do you make sure that you introduce the human at the right point? Because it's, again, a question of choice and preference. There may be people who do not want to ever have to deal with a human. Maybe it's a question of personal preference. It's kind of transaction when it is. But providing that ability is really, really going to be critical. And one other thing about digital channel that you all are very aware of, switching costs are low. So if you are not building relationship, it's not even trying to realize the lifetime value of that relationship, you will lose to competitors.
Right. When you think about compliance, risk, and transparency, what comes to mind?
So we are, in financial services industry is regulated, highly regulated, and understandably so. Right? I mean, there's a reason we have regulation. Right? We are handling some of the most critical information, right, for our customers. So we need to be regulated, and of course, different jurisdictions also have, government backstop and guarantees, so you know why it needs to be regulated. So it's not a question of being regulated, so I think regulation is important. It actually leads to and endangers trust. What here at Microsoft, what we are doing is we want to make sure that we understand what are the requirements, right? What is it that we are what is the risk that we're trying to manage? And the best way for us to do it, and what we have been doing over the last, few years, is we are actively engaging all relevant stakeholders, regulators, to understand what it is that they're trying to do. We engage global regulators, and we listen, and we understand what it is that's driving them. We talk to our customers, and we understand what it is that they are dealing with, and what are the challenges, and how it translates to them. And then we also have people like me who have worked in this space in the past, right, who bring a different set of perspectives. So that is being incorporated into our products by design. Right? So we are building it into our products. And with one very important distinction, it's not going to be one size fits all. So we want to also make sure that we are providing the capability so that our customers can customize it, right, for their risk and the control landscape.
Yeah. Yeah, it's perfectly said, and this is again not the one size fits all for sure. And again, being part of Adobe, we work with different customers again globally, and we collect this feedback on the risks and compliance requirements and how our clients dealing with that, and we're providing that feedback to regulators. But I want to make 2 points. One point is, what we very often, again, being at Adobe, what we often see, some of the processes which used to be a certain way in this offline world are translated, brought over to digital world. And people continue to do these things without asking a question why? And my best example is very often I go to commercial banking clients, and they tell me okay, so you're doing all these beautiful digital signature processes with all the verification, identity verification. Can you compare the electronic signature with a signature card we have on hand? And my question is why? Why? Because there is so many ways to hedge the risks, to meet the compliance requirements without having that thing which is probably written somewhere in policies and procedures 20 years back. So you can rethink this process. You can actually hedge the risk. You can elevate your processes to a much higher level with a government ID verification, two-factor ID verification, KBAs, there are so many things to do these things. So to avoid the risk of fraud in this case.
So thank you. So we know stickiness happens when the user really develops human emotional connection to the experience. How can we ensure that happens, and what are the thoughts on that kind of experience and design?
So one thing, and one of the panelists touched on it briefly in the morning, is how do you use data? And how are you effectively using data to meet your customer where and when they want to, how they want to meet? Because very often what again has happened for various historical reasons is that our data has been in silos. So again, I can go through I could go through an example in which a customer goes in, right? Let's say I have a late payment and I call the bank. Now, the bank has all the information that they need to process it. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, the reason I had a late payment on my mortgage was because one of my checks that I had deposited cleared late. So it was a timing issue. So that information is all available. I missed by 1 day. I got a notification. I called the bank. That resolution should be pretty straightforward, right? Because they're going to forgive it. They're going to make me current, and they're going to fix it. And they may be able to do something else in addition, right, to make sure that this doesn't occur in the past. But that's not the typical experience for a customer when they call a bank. Because what happens is that information is not available to that agent that you're interacting with. And that leads to a lot of frustration, not just for the customer, but also for that agent. Right? So we talk about customer experience. Customer experience and employee experience are two sides of the same coin. Right? So, but if we use data, the data that we have, and I'm not talking about going and getting unstructured data and running crazy analytics on top of it. Forget that. Even the data that we have, are we really, really taking advantage of that? Right? You start doing that, you will build the relationships that you're talking about, Hunter.
Great, Natalie.
Yes, I agree with everything you said. It's really, again, it's really using data to understand the human behind, behind the numbers and their experience and how they want to be communicated and what exactly happening in their lives. And there's so many tools, again, you don't need to put a human in front of that person, but you can navigate their experiences through bots and other things. Just make sure you do it from the human, from EQ type of perspective, not just transactionals, but EQ type of perspectives. And this is what we see with neobanks. Very often, they have not better products. The only thing which they have better is experience and ability to connect with people on that emotional level. And this is something which more established organizations can actually adopt. Well,
let's talk a little bit more about that. What does winning look like? And how do you, as a CIO, CTO, how do you incorporate that into the culture, a winning team, and the thinking when they go into that design session to create that human-centered approach? It's really a mind shift, right? Natalie?
Yes, absolutely. So it's definitely a mind shift, and this is again Adobe is experience company. So everything we do from the point of view of experience and understanding experiences of your customers. And again, design sessions of what is a typical experience, really helpful. And sometimes again, you need to bring people around the table, people from product, people from compliance, people from risk, to understand what it means to a regular person, trying to open an account, because it's still, again, despite all the efforts there, it's still challenging for some of the people. So this is one thing. The second thing, your employees, the same story. You need to think about their experiences. And it's very interesting. Every time when we get, we do a lot of research around digital documents and digital tools and how people can do their jobs better. And every time we hear we don't have enough tools. We don't have enough tools to do our jobs better, to be efficient. So the same story, again, you may have a beautiful customer experience journey, but when employee needs to sit there and he type information, honestly, it's a real example. There is a web form, a customer would enter all the information on the web form. Someone on the back office would be retyping from this form to another system, all the information, and validating it in that system. So again, there is so many things, try to understand what it means for employees and think about these things. And when you get this information, understand, again, assess all the touch points from the point of view, again, a high emotional touch point or high complexity touch point, and use your data to understand when to introduce that person in creating, introducing that human back in the process would create amazing experience for customers and for employees as well.
Great stuff. Sandeep?
Yeah, so you asked advice for CIOs. We are acutely aware of where we are today, right? The questions around, is a recession coming? You made your prediction, Hunter. So as we look ahead now, right, we know this, right? No transformation is dependent just on technology, right? It's people, process, and technology, right? And in this environment in which there will be some belt tightening, there will be definitely some pressure on change the bank initiatives, and a pressure to continue to innovate. How do you do it? And one thing that I hear a lot of nowadays is, let's make sure that we have a North Star in mind, right? Using some of the design thinking approaches that Natalie talked about. But we cannot, right, suspend everything and work towards a North Star. We need to make sure that as we are, undertaking this transformation journey, we are delivering value today, right? We are showing effectiveness today, right? We are showing improvements today, and celebrate that success, because nothing breeds success like that, like success, right? And there'll always be in every organization some people who will be very enthusiastic, and some people who will be skeptical, right? And a lot of people in the peanut galleries. So in order to make sure that you can do in this journey, develop that North Star, but just make sure that you start by focusing on Horizon 1 initiatives, things that you can deliver today. Horizon 2 initiatives where you're starting to push some of the transformation that you are embarking on, and have a very clear view of that Horizon 3 North Star initiatives that you need to do.
Great stuff. We have about 4 minutes left. Any questions at all? Any questions? Okay. When you think of accessibility and what is meant by building accessibility into the platforms, what comes to mind?
Oh, this is my favorite topic lately. It's interesting that accessibility topic is very hot with our clients, again, like in North America and outside of North America. And it's driven by two things. It's driven by partially, again, like because of AD compliance and other compliance. It's more of the compliance kind of a drive. But also because of the realization, what we realized over the last 2 years is that majority of the things will be done in digital world. And what about those people who have problems understanding information? So accessibility becoming a very hot topic. And when I was preparing for this discussion, but also even before, again, I was looking for some stats. Apparently, more than 20% of people have challenges reading information. Again, different degrees, but 20% of the people, and we just had one of the example in our discussion at the table over there, one person said, I have a disability, just reading disabilities. And again, how do you communicate the information to people who cannot, again, absorb it very easily? So this is for us a big kind of a challenge on which we are working, and we actually resolving it really well. So there is two elements to that. The first thing is helping people consume the information, and there is tools and ways to consume this information, present this information to people with disabilities, but also it starts with creating content, in this case like documents, but also web forms and others that can be easily translated by these tools. And this is, again, we've done a couple of studies, 90% in one of the leading financial organizations out there, 90% of client-facing, not client, public-facing documents were not accessibility ready, not accessible ready. So that was a big, again, a big challenge. So I can talk about this topic a lot, but again, and there is small things you can do, such as, again, change a font. Some fonts are working better than others. And if you change a font, you can increase the readability and speed of, how people consume information and read. More than 50%. More than 50%. And this is, again, this is another thing, we do all these assessments. We can help you, provide kind of an audit on these things and prepare your organization to serve those people who have again, who have some disabilities or have some challenges as assessing information. And again, this is a big topic. As you can see, I'm very passionate about these things because it is really something which can be easily addressed and should be addressed, in any financial organization.
Great stuff. Sandeep, why the partnership with Adobe? There's a reason why you all are partnering together, and you're two world-class companies, amazing scale.
See, partnership is actually really important to Microsoft and our strategy. It's always been the case. We have always led with partners. And in fact, there are independent studies that show that for every dollar that Microsoft makes, our partners make $9. So we have always worked with partners. And when we think about partners, we want to make sure, what partners do is they build on top of the platform capabilities that we are investing in. And they help us reach our customers and meet needs, right, which are very bespoke to their industries, to their requirements. And Adobe is one of them. It's been, as you know, in the document management space, has been absolutely innovative, has been a pioneer. So it's natural that the two of us work together.
Great stuff. And Natalie, from your point of view?
Oh, absolutely. More than 100 integrations across different products for Adobe and Microsoft, and creates easy environment for anybody out there, to support their clients and employees.
Great stuff. Natalie, Sandeep, thank you so much. Great job.
Pleasure.
Thank you.